Well, the president and his aides are pushing back against new accusations of racism after a series of tweets aimed at African-American Congressman Elijah Cummings and the city of Baltimore. On Twitter, the president pointed to Cummings' failure as the city's congressman. Here's the tweet. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up the very dangerous and filthy place no human being would want to live there. Democrats say the president's criticism is politically and racially motivated.
This president has shown us time and time again, from the way that he started his campaign to the comments about that Mexican-American judge during the campaign, to his failure to immediately condemn white supremacists in Charlottesville in 2018. There's a pattern here.
He continues to say things about American cities all across this country. I mean, look, our president has a hate agenda.
But the president stands by his statements in another tweet today. If the Democrats are going to defend the radical left squad and King Elijah's Baltimore fail, it will be a long road to 2020.
And here now for more is Caitlin Conant, political director at CBS News. Caitlin, just when we thought we had our fill of presidential tweets and race, we saw the new tweets over the weekend with Elijah Cummings spilling into today.
Right. And again, this is something that the president is doubling down on this morning. It's clearly a fight that he wants to have. And I think we'll see this bleed into the debate in Detroit this week, where in 2016, Hillary Clinton underperformed with African-American voters. So I think, as we've seen over the weekend, continue today, the 2020 presidential candidates on the Democratic side will continue to point out their differences with the president of a race.
Caitlin, how calculated do you think these tweets are, if at all? You know, we see the president today, on the heels of these tweets, meeting with inner-city faith leaders. Is this sort of cleanup on their part? Is it a coincidence? Or what do you make of all of this and the timing?
You know, I haven't seen a readout of the meeting yet. What I do know is that it was not on the schedule this morning, and the Baltimore Sun just reported that they invited a black pastor from Baltimore to attend, and he said, you know, I don't know if I was invited because of the cleanup or not, if it's in the aftermath of these tweets. But I do think it's something that the president wants to talk about, and maybe his team is pushing back as they have in the past.
Do you think a lot of these tweets that he puts out are calculated, or him just, you know, putting his thoughts out there for everybody to see?
I think the president really knows how to dominate media coverage. And right now, going into the debates, even the sitting Democratic senator in Michigan says we should be talking about pocketbook issues. Let's talk about the rising cost of prescription drugs, and about worker retraining and how to give people new skills. And now the president has changed the subject, and we're talking about this.
A new Quinnipiac poll shows Joe Biden surging among African-American voters, even after criticisms from that first debate about his past support of busing and on the 1994 crime bill. What is Biden's appeal among black voters, especially when you have two African-American candidates, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker?
Well, I think people really look at Biden as an older statesman, and he was the vice president. People know him. And I think a lot of what's interesting about this field is there are so many candidates, and it's hard to break through. And that's what will be interesting in the debates this week, to see, can you have a moment? When Kamala Harris has a rematch with Joe Biden, can she effectively make him look weak and come down in the polls? And I think he has said that he wants to not be as polite this time around, and we'll see if that holds.
Is this about electability?
I think part of it is about electability. Part of it is name ID. We saw this last cycle. There were a lot of Republicans running, and Donald Trump ran, and he had 100% name ID. And it's kind of hard to get your message out with someone who is just so well known. So I think part of it is that, too.
Caitlin, what else are you looking for in these first debates, night one, tomorrow night?
I think we'll see a lot on health care. It is still the #1 issue for Democratic voters in a recent CBS News poll. Kamala Harris rolled out a new plan this morning. She'd kind of waffled on the issue before, and now she's being criticized by both sides. Bernie Sanders' team is saying that, you know, you can call it what you want, but you can't call it Medicare for all. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is saying this is just Medicare for all light. So I would expect a lot of discussion about health care.
Do you think a lot of them will be going after Joe Biden like Kamala Harris did last time? Or where will their fire be focused this time?
Well, I think tomorrow night you'll have an interesting matchup between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who are kind of competing for the more progressive wing. And they'll be joined on stage by many of the more moderate candidates who are looking for a breakout moment to do better in the polls and to get more money, which they need to get in the debates in the fall. And that's Amy Klobuchar, it's Steve Bullock, John Delaney. And then the next night will be kind of what we're all waiting around to see, which is the rematch between Biden and Kamala Harris. Cory Booker, as you said, has pointed out his differences with him on criminal justice reform, so we can expect a lot of that.
Well, Caitlin, we always appreciate your expertise, and thanks
so
for
much.
joining us
Thank you for
today.
having me.